As you know, internationalization is a big pillar of IndiGo's growth at the moment. Obviously, when you think of IndiGo, you think primarily of the passenger business that we've grown and over 40 international destinations. From a cargo specific point of view, I think there's two elements. One is the regional international expansion that we're having on our narrow body Airbus freighters, right? Airbus passenger aircraft, where we have limited payload. I think from a cargo point of view, what's more exciting and what's really more, I guess, giving us the energy from as a team is the new wide bodies that we've inducted in the last 6 months, since July last year when we started operating into Europe. Those 787s, they have a very different cargo capacity compared to the narrow body aircraft. And what that's doing is building that gap until we take delivery of our 350-900 aircraft, passenger versions, which have a very good cargo capability. So from a sort of IndiGo Cargo point of view, it's like growing up. We're going from a narrow body, loose loaded cargo, albeit, we have a huge number of flights domestically. We carry a lot of volume because of the pure math between number of departures and the ability to carry cargo. But for us, as we move to wide body, I call it like growing up. It's really growing into a new segment, palletized cargo, different ranges of commodities, different type of customer, and certainly a different network that's taking us well beyond the region to much further destinations. I mean, as you know, we operate dedicated freighters, and I'll come to that in just a second. When you say recovery, I guess you're talking about, post-COVID and what's happened. Yeah, look, when you're a cargo division of a passenger airline, you're always going to follow the network that your passenger aircraft are being deployed on. For us in India, I think we have a couple of quite distinct segments. The metro to metro segment, very cargo heavy, driven primarily around prime flights in the morning, right? That sort of 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. departure where there's a lot of demand for e-commerce, for pharma, for post office mail. That's always going to be there, and as IndiGo grows, we'll grow with that. The second most, I think, exciting thing really in our passenger network is the tier 2, tier 3 cities, some of which don't have huge demand for air cargo, but that's changing. That's changing as people around the country in these second and third tier cities, want to have access to different types of perishables, for example, or, a growing middle class in India, a bigger demand for goods that traditionally go by air freight. Then there's the freighter piece. The freighter piece, we operate 3 narrow body freighters at the moment. We don't operate them primarily on domestic because we have so much capacity deployed already through our line flights. We operate them around the region where they have the right range. So we have China, Vietnam, and the Middle East where they're primarily, see the highest number of utilization. That's, as far as I'm concerned, we'll continue to do that. The growth is going to come in the wide bodies. Is it going to come in wide body freighters? That's not something we're looking at the moment. One of the challenges of freighters, of course, is trade imbalance, okay? India has quite a lot of trade imbalance. We see that even today with our narrow body freighters, but we're able to make it work within the region. But as we go forward, we'll obviously continue to do our studies, but really it's that growth around, I think just below 1,000 aircraft we have on order now, including, for me, very exciting 60 A350-900s. So just earlier I talked about what you're talking about, these tier 2, tier 3 cities. I think it's changing every day, but I think today IndiGo operates to 96 airports domestically within India on the passenger side. Of those 96, 69 airports, right, can accept air cargo, which I think is a huge number. In fact, obviously we've just inducted Navi Mumbai. I think Jalapur in Madhya Pradesh was added recently. Again, a fairly small town. When I look at these second and third tier cities, I never come across infrastructure issues, okay? It's much more about supply and demand. And if the supply and demand grows, it will follow. The infrastructure's never been an issue. Infrastructure tends to be an issue when you have very, very highly congested airports. And that's not something we're seeing in the second and third tier cities. So for me, the challenge and for my team is really more around the commercial aspect of, is there demand for air products? We're competing very strongly now with a growing road network in India, right? And great for the country, not so great for air cargo in some ways. Although if you look at it, there are certain pockets of India that are so vast. It's a vast country. You've got the northeast, right? Well beyond the sort of the borders of Bangladesh. That's always going to remain a very strong air cargo connectivity network because roads are going to take natural time to transport goods there. But it's not for me. It's not an infrastructure issue. It's more a demand issue in the second, demand and supply. Okay. I mean, there's a great stat, and it's an old stat, right? And you've probably heard this, and it's from a Boeing study many years ago, but I still think it rings true. Something like 2% of the world's volume of goods goes by air, but it's 30% of the value. So in air cargo, the value chain is very important. India's really growing up that value chain, and I've seen it in the 9 years that I've been in India. I've seen the demand very much shift from sort of, I think, heavier sort of manufactured goods to much more consumer-driven products. You know, increase in the e-commerce. Pharmaceuticals is huge. So I don't think India's falling behind. I think India's in that growth stage that is moving to a real sweet spot for air cargo. And I'm you know, I think we're here as IndiGo Cargo, and we're trying to make the cargo business of IndiGo more core, right? You know, we've gone from just domestic belly onto the region, you know, wide body, freighter, more wide bodies, and now a bigger wide body order coming in the future. So I think we're in a good place. The value chain of Indian goods is growing, right? It's getting more into our space of air cargo. From an Indian airline point of view, if you look at the share of the amount of air cargo exports that are carried on Indian carriers versus non-Indian carriers, we're still a very small percentage. I think we're probably below 15% per the DGCA. That's a massive opportunity for us to find a balance there, right? That's a huge growth opportunity, and I think we're well positioned to take advantage of that. Again, I'll segment that a little bit. On metro to metro, at certain times of the day, absolutely. So what we do in terms of our strategy, we obviously have the prime flights that go at the yield premium, right? And customers are willing to pay for that because it's highly time sensitive. In other parts of the day, we have pricing structures that will address non-lean flights. And we have customers that are happy with that. They don't have to meet a particular cutoff time. They don't have to meet a particular delivery time. But generally speaking, on metro to metro, I think utilization is very high. The non-high utilization is the second and third tier cities. I mean, you know, one of the challenges, it's a joy for me, is, you know, working for an airline that is expanding so fast. I mean, it's a sort of unique story in the world at the moment, is that, you know, sometimes when I get a note from, you know, network planning to say we're adding a point, I need to get the map out to see where this point is, right? And then I need to talk to the sales team in the Northeast or in the West or the South or wherever it is and say, right, you know, what is the demand here? And often there's not that demand. We have lean flights. So then we have to get on the road. We go and talk to our customers. You know, one commodity that is always strong is postal mail, right? Because postal mail covers every PIN code in the country. So that's something that we support the Indian Post a lot in terms of postal mail, but it's trying to find other ways to fill those bellies that, you know, it's not the easiest job in the world, but it's a great opportunity and a challenge for the team. Yeah, from a network coverage point of view, as I said, you know, out of the 96 airports that we cover domestically, 69 are currently able to carry cargo. And don't forget, we also have a fleet of ATRs, right? The smaller aircraft that are doing a lot of regional flying, you know, particularly in places like the South. You know, we do carry cargo on them, limited amounts because of the payload and, you know, obviously the packed baggage. But, you know, we're covering such a wonderful network. It's now up to me and the team to find opportunities to fill that. Thank you very much. Pleasure.